President, Ms. Olajumoke Ajayi, MP Napita, to deliver her opening remarks.
Tunde, at times it's time for PA to talk or PA.
Okay, while we are trying to have that fixed, may we kindly welcome the, yeah, let's proceed with that. So, let's kindly make welcome the chairman of today's technical meeting. Dr. Anthony, we can hear you. Or we can see you rather.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you
But
now.
I can't hear you very well. It's very faint. I'm sorry. I don't know what is going on. Can any other person hear very well?
It's not really clear from Abuja, but I can hear you very well.
It's not. Yeah, you're very clear to me. Abuja is not clear at all. I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah, I think it's a technical thing. They're just trying to sort it out.
Okay. Yeah. But can you hear me very well?
Loud and clear. We can hear you online. And
okay, so let me know what I can barely hear you, but let me know what you want me to do now. Are you introducing me, or you want me to say something? I'm struggling.
I think Ayo is giving you a chance to speak on behalf of NAPI. That was the announcement he just made.
Okay. Let me quickly do that. If that if you can hear me very well, like I said, I can barely hear Abuja. So I want to thank the presenter for taking it upon himself to present this to us today. Chinotu, Dr. Chinotu has been a friend and somebody I've known for a very long time. So I'm pretty sure he's going to do justice to this topic for us. So NAPI appreciates what he has been doing and will continue to do for NAPI. So on that note, I will say NAPI is excited and happy to have Dr. Chinotu present at the Abuja chapter technical business meeting. Thank you.
Awesome. Well done.
All right. Thank you very much, President-elect. I appreciate you. At this juncture, we would like
to welcome the chairman. Yes. The chairman of the
It gives me great pleasure to introduce the chairman of the Dr. Dr. Mala is a principal regulatory officer with Nigerian upstream
serving within the energy sustainability and carbon years of experience. His career spans subsurface geoscience, upstream regulation, policy development, and industry governance engagement. A combination that places him right at the intersection of technical depth and strategic oversight. He holds a PhD in petroleum from the University of Manchester. He also has an MBA and is a chartered geoscientist as well as a certified carbon auditing professional. What makes Dr. Mala profile particularly compelling is the breadth of his experience. His background combines hands-on geoscience work, including geology, geophysics, seismic acquisition, drilling, and reservoir studies, with regulatory oversight, decarbonization frameworks, and climate-aligned energy policy within Nigeria's upstream drilling sector. He has led multidisciplinary technical teams on subsurface evaluation, project oversight, and regulatory initiatives, and
actively engaged, serving voluntarily on several technical and professional committees of the association. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm and enthusiastic welcome to our channel today, Dr. Mala.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Martin, for that introduction. So, good morning once again, distinguished colleagues, senior colleagues here present, fellow.
For the Abuja chapter. So I've been very active with NAPE, and Abuja is my primary constituency. Yes. So today we are listening to Dr. Chinotu, who will be talking about morphodynamics of tidal and web-related deposits in the Niger Delta, an example of the application of GIS in oil and gas exploration.
Other members,
So I would like to
students,
briefly
we have
introduce the
here.
speaker. Dr. Chinotu George is currently with Lekoil, Nigeria in Lagos, where he is actively involved in the exploration of the Dahomey Basin, a frontier basin. So we're working extensively with basin-scale regional
Data. More recently, he has also undertaken prospectivity studies in the Niger Delta field for that deepening engagement in Nigeria's upstream landscape. So, Dr. Chintu has over 20 years of relevant industry experience, and he's built a strong and diverse professional portfolio across the industry. So it's privileged. He has previously worked with Lesser Engineering as a geomodeler and with Colab as a geologist. So bringing both technical depth and practical industry insight to his work. Academically, Dr. Chinedu, Dr. George holds a PhD in geology from the University of Aberdeen, obtained in 2024. Prior to that, he earned an MSc in petroleum geology with exploration geophysics in 2001, and a BSc in geology with the second class global division in 2007. Both from the University of Port Harcourt. He has been an active member of NAPE since 2007, and is also a member of respected international professional bodies, including AESG and PESG, reflecting his continued commitment to professional development and global industry engagement. Dr. George is married to Mrs. Monroe George. They are blessed with 4 children. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Chinedu George. Dr. George,
give you the floor. The topic you're talking about today is very important, so I would like us please, because it's actually cross-cutting, it's important for the Niger Delta. We are talking about quantifying shoreline migration patterns, map fascist variability with greater precision using GIS, and
wet settings are what data.
and this is very
This is
important
very
for
important for subsurface characterization because
at the end of the day, if you want to do a field evaluation, you want to go to developing your field, you need to understand these basics very well because it helps you reduce your risks and uncertainty to a greater length, and you can help predict with your fascist distribution, your reservoir architecture, and all of that. So Dr. Chinotu will take us through that. So I urge you to note your questions, your comments as he's going through, because we'll take them at the end of this session. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here to share what I've done regarding landforms in the Niger Delta. Thank you, the chairman. The introduction was a bit into what I want to present, so thanks for making it easy. So we'll just go straight. If we can put the slide.
Those program is part of the research I did while studying at University of Aberdeen. Next slide, please. So it's just to introduce a little bit of what the nature is, what we use. Then we do result and discussion. Due to the volume of data and figures we have, as soon as this figure or table is presented, I will do a minute discussion around it. Then to conclude, the focus of this study basically is to look at landforms, geomorphic units, as we term them, your rivers, your beaches, and all of that, and see if we can make inference to the processes that resulted, that built them. And the implication for this takes us back to a classification of the tectonic system. So in a nutshell, that is what we focus on this discussion. So the tectonic systems, as we know them, are very complex systems. A lot of factors can influence sediment supply, whether in terms of the drift, fluctuation of sea level, dominant processes between tide wave and all that, and things that can influence your delta. So this attempt actually is narrowing down to just the landforms and the processes that would have resulted to them, not neglecting the other factors that would also make the system complex. So we focus on tidal channels as a landform, beaches, spits, the lagoons and termination lakes. Those are the landforms that we focus on this discussion. Connectivity of these landforms. What patterns do they show in terms of spatial distribution, the orientation, the distribution, proportion, and how connected each bodies are? So to study with documentary of these landforms, as do they show in terms of spatial distribution bodies are? Again, why are we doing all of this? We want to know how the landforms are at the present day, and when you see them in the subsurface, you can have an understanding of the spatial distribution, the geometry, and all of that. Then at the end is to visit classification of the Niger Delta. And the model I'll be using among other models in 2011. So the question is, why are we focusing on just the wave and the tide generated landforms? The interest here is because we know in our environment, the Niger Delta, we talk of the balance sequence, parallel sequences as well. So we have that bias. Hence, the selection of the focus on that part. So, what are the implications? So we share this. We look at the organization, also in the sense that the way the chairman pointed out in his speech. The next slide, please. So, just a little bit of methods. I don't intend to bore you. It's just to recap. Now, what we use in this study is satellite imaging, Landsat and sports, and use ArcGIS, CRO, and other software to do our analysis on these bodies we study. So, we collected data, environment, surface, primarily just the radiation from your satellite images. Of course, in this case, I didn't acquire it myself. These are commercially available. So the analysis of shape, density, connectivity, from which some relationships were derived. Subsequent analysis of the overall morphology of the landform was also used to infer the processes. So typically in the Niger Delta, remember what we say in the fundamental principle, geological principle, that the present is the key to the other ways. The present is also the key to the future. So it's just that fundamental traditional relationship. Explanation. I just decided to put one or two of those cross description of the Niger Delta sedimentary environments. And what this study shows, just to map it, to recalibrate it, we see that the area of Niger Delta is 70,000 square kilometers. Of course, in your always so axial distance, which is previously thought to be 300 kilometers, is actually 21 kilometers. That is how I'm showing you that. So from previous studies. So more or less, this study is more accurate and more recent technology to try to give value to existing knowledge that we have. So the lower delta plate, which is where we are studying around the delta front, is one of the mega sedimentary environments that we have. And mentioned that like 25% of the entire mega delta. That you might want to say, if they just contribute just 25%, of course, I've pointed out that most of our carbons in the subsurface are found in this type of environment. So, of course, previous study by in 1974 has made reports of as being 5,000 square kilometers, less than what this one shows. So, and also the time to be 9,000 square kilometers. Comparison, looking at the previous studies by Conference and Allen, you see the difference with this study. To be fair, the method, the data set used were not clear in the reports. So as a result of that, it's not like a typical apple to apple kind of comparison. But I have confidence in this based on the quality of data. And these are the new dimensions and parameters for the data for us. Next slide. So it's just to show you the same map represented in a different mode. In this case, looking at the environments of deposition, the recent environment, your dry, flat, upper floodplain, and all of that are shown. Even the beaches, the freshwater swamp, and all that. So it's just another way to represent the map, apart from just looking at geometry and proportions. These are the supplementary environments. So we'll go to the next slide. So now, this study, the last one, this study, if you look at the map of Niger, you see the influence to 22 channels and 14 activities. Those channels, we look at their topology and create so here we are just looking at the various Niger channel styles, or call it patterns. So the main channel that goes through, we have called those the main channels. Connecting between the channels are traverse channels. Then you go down in terms of scale to your creeks, which are just interconnected, relatively lower, smaller width. So the main tidal channels have been further grouped into 4 geographic zones, and this is actually part of the emphasis I want to place on this discussion. So we still have the channel mount, which we measured, channel length, how the width vary along the channel, how they are interconnected, not just within themselves, also with channels that are trivial, related, and that general topology. These are things we did. So, and we summarize that by saying we have the main tidal channels, the creeks, the traverse channels, and we have the lagoons, or in some form we call them terminal lakes or termination lakes. So if you have a mental picture of your Lagos area, you will see is the tide and the water trying to go into but because there is not enough space to they over around and forward to all the but in some, they succeeded in going further than into the but where they terminate, they are not connected to the fluvial system. Hence, they form one looks like a pool of body. So that is what we tend to extend the dynamics. We all have implications in terms of the morphodynamics of the shape. The next slide, please. So a map of measurement of the width variation as well was done. This is a normalized plot. Normalized and mean the highest number is 100 and the lowest is 1. So we normalize the plot just to make it easy to plot for over 22 channels. And in that relationship, which is a polynomial function, was established as a predictor for the variation of width along your channel. In this case, that tidal channel. Though not here, but it's also published. The contrast between the tidal channels and the Niger Delta as against the fluvial channel. While you predict the mixed operation of tidal channel with thermal relationship, that of the fluvial channels are all in. So they reduce towards the coast. On the tidal one, they increase towards the coast. So that is also what I want to take from here. The next one, please. Then another parameter we looked at is trying to study the morphology of the tidal systems as a velocity. We all know what it is. It's a measure of the coverage of the channels per length or unit of length. Yeah, I tried to in that study to put mathematics into it in terms of instead of just measuring it along and having different divided lengths. I try to make it consistent per 1 meter to develop this. So we noticed that the tidal channels, the sinuosity index were less than 1, and in the classification, anything less than 1.2 is not assignment. So they are mostly non-assignment. But if you move away from the main channel into the traverse, into the creeks, the sinuosity index increases and up to very points and above. So that is just basically positive. And we made a comparison with the work that Rainbow did and saw that the more you move into the tidal form environment, the higher the sinuosity is a function of the elevation of the landform and also that of the channel. So we move on to the next one. So also another parameter is the channel density. It's just number of channels that was per square meter. Then how many of those interconnection points as well? Square meter. That is what we then per square kilometer. Sorry. That is what we then channel density and channel sinuosity. So why is it important? This is important because by knowing the density of the channel parameters like interconnectivity, you can begin to have an idea of this. So the Niger delta is relatively low, the relief, and the tidal density is highest within the lower delta pool and concentrates into 4 distinct zones. It separates into 4 clusters in this case. So we were able to divide the Niger delta into the west zone, the central, the east, and also the far east. So that is what this data helped us to do. The next one. So that is the map showing how they concentrate. And for the west, it's clear. You can see the densities and connectivity is low. The central and the west, a little bit, but if you zoom it, you can see that it's actually low in that environment. Then the far east is there. The next one has back one step. Okay, go ahead. So this is just what we have. And the temptation lakes again is another thing that we want us to see. Some of these tidal channels that conform to the west and to the east, at the end you see that kind of water pool in that termination. So the main tidal channels are grouped into closed end and open end, depending on whether river channels is connected to just 7 of the tidal inlets are open-ended, 11 are closed, 3 partly closed and partly open. So the termination lakes are found to be associated with the closed end of the channels. And in the map I showed, in the sedimentary environment, there is a zone where we can zone. So the majority of these abandoned road channels don't have river channels connecting to them. The vegetation is also there, sediments, and the lower the amount of sediment and supplemented from the wide because the endpoint of the way of the deforestation. So this was how we connect the story. So the next one, please. So another landform is the beach. Some of us will be familiar with the beaches, long ridges of sand between your coastal mountains. So we did that, and we have plenty of those beaches along the coast. By the way, from Lagos side down to far east, before you just get to Cameroon, it's about 750 kilometers. I mean, just going through the whole of the coast. So the beaches are longer, wider on the eastern and western flank, and decreases in length with towards the center of the delta coastline. So at the center, you have the tidal channels connected to rivers of land and all of them. Because of that, they are narrower. So the beaches are narrower in the central part. People action is dominant, while at the flank, the action of the tidal wave are predominant and support beach suppression. So beaches are completely absent in the far east, where you have the river course, completely absent. We have the spine and we delve into this further. Why that is the case? The tidal action is predominantly predominant here as compared to other parts of the delta. So in classifying the strength of delta, we use that tidal range classification where it is low as micro between 2 and 4 mesos. Anything above 4, you have your quantum influence. And in that zone, it's above 4. So there's a lot of tidal activity in the Cross River side. So channelization of the beaches in the Niger River is also observed to increase outwards from the central part, both of the west and the east. So this is because the flank, there is less accommodation space to dissipate tidal and wave action. So tidal waves channelize them to form lagoons in this case. So the next one is the other landform we looked at in the study is what we call speed. Speeds at some point can be confused with your beaches because they can actually, in the later stages, get blocked and get animated to form your beach. But in the context of this, we are just limiting it to those additional beaches obviously separated from the land. Though attack maybe on one thing. So there are physical expression of wave actions and longitudinal drift. Their presence in the Niger Delta indicates that the delta morphology is influenced by waves to some extent. The speech landform were observed and mapped to central parts. There are patterns of directional morphology that shows that the long short drift is also bidirectional. So speech is formed when wave action hits the coastline. I'll just say that I'm going to the last one. In turn, they reduce the dispersive impact of tide on one hand and increase delta propagation. So, of course, we know that Niger delta is often propagating delta. It's a function of the way the rapid supply of sediment has a dominant influence against the other factors in the way the pipe and the root distributed. So we'll move on to the next slide. So this is just a way to put them together, different classifications of this. The bidirectional one constitutes just 8% of the entire space. The speed, the ones that are growing at functional level 32, the stable inlets, just 48 predominantly. This has an impact on our delta classification because some of the models like body and others use the nature of your speed flow, the cleanness of your tidal inlets as a way of classifying them. And finally, the mapper will just that's the next one. So going forward, we want to show models.
People online now.
Of
Actually, these people online now.
One,
You are going and they are making.
It's just a general
Makes like
definition of
one
what
academic set up like
and what is influencing it. Here in the classification, the Niger Delta is
I think
not
messed up like
as against
the
without to story and brand various models of Delta classification. The next one, please. So this is another popular one. In fact, this is the Galloway model of 1975 is what seems to be the model that Niger Delta was classified based on. So we always say Niger Delta is a ternary and delta system having predominantly the three elements, the three processes available. But this model focused basically on sediment supply and the size of the sediment supply actually. So Niger Delta is fitted right in the middle and classified as a ternary delta system.
Hello.
So we'll go to the next one. So this is another model by Boyd. Boyd looked at
She has
can you press the link, this back. or okay, maybe it was supposed to show part of landforms. So we have. Okay, so looking at that is a measure of tidal power, which is increasing towards and wave power, which is increasing towards one. Part of it has been covered, but it's just using morphology, dominance of tidal field, dominance of breaches, the combination of all of them to do data classification. Apology that this part is the beginning of this. It was supposed to show us some features. So we'll move to the next one. Right. Okay, so this model is Einstein's model of data classification. He generated about 22 copies based on the influence of tide wave and fluvial generated. So top, you can see F is river dominated, and in that way we have various combinations of fluid and wave, that, and all of them. The same thing for wave, the same thing for time. So those are morphologies, how it will look like. Then we can say this is the classification of the delta. This is very important because it's key to this job. I prefer this model and benchmarking what I did in the sense that my work was focused on landforms. So we have looked at the landforms and all of that. So in this model, if it's predominantly, if you have something like FW, so you say the F is dominant, then the next element is influenced, then the third one is affected. That is the terminology for this model. Okay, the next one. So we want to build evidences from all we have discussed various platforms. Say this is it, the story. So looking at this is from the west. We can see that it was time dominated, looking at the shape and looking at what we have here, which is from that image, and wave influence. That is the classification of that western part. So we'll go to the next one. So here in the point model, it's a progressing delta, decreasing wave and tidal power with increasing fever of sediment supply. But in the astronaut model, it is fever wave. So we have fever dominated and wave influence at the center, at the central part of the Niger River. So we'll move to the next one. One more. Okay, there's an image here, but this particular image is similar. It is on the east. It's similar to what we saw on the western part. So the same morphology is tide dominated, wave influence, partly progressional, increased wave and tidal power on boys model. So that is what we can find. The next one. So this is the final category, which is the Far East. In the Far East region, we have tide dominated and fluvial influence in that model. So that is for this particular environment, we did the hydrographic study around it recently. Very active, very active. There are a lot of sand. Some of them are submerged, you might not see them. But are physically in there from the African side where they can be called one. So if you can literally walk across like 2-3 kilometers of river when it's low tide because of sand accumulation or swim, maybe if you can. Yeah. Very, very active environment. So that is what this other part is. So we'll move on again. So we have also looked at tidal channel connectivity and density. So how does this support this story? We say the connectivity and the density map we looked at showed us that the data actually concentrates into 4 distinct loads. And that distance, those distances will also conform to what is also the overall data morphology we look at, benchmarking it on high and short and poor. So the connectivity is high in zones where Africa are predominant. Connectivity is highest at the center, then it uses gradient dynamics, concentrating the data into distinct loads. In this case, 4 distinct loads: the west, the central, the east, and the next slide, please. So that is the map showing the concentration of the concentration of your tidal density map and the connectivity map into zones, the stations into west, the central, and that. Move on, please. So it's more distinct in a central low, east, far east. We'll still look at the part for all of them, like that continuous movement, especially in the 0.3 to 0.6 zone level. But in the fact is there is complete disconnection. This has an implication, so we'll just discuss it. Just keep it. All right. The next one. The same thing for connectivity map. We can see that. So we'll just move on. You can see the zonation. I zoomed into that one. You can see the zonation and how they concentrate. Move to the next slide. So, again, evidence from the beach morphology. How does the beach look like? So, looking at that, the tidal flat are present, an indication of high energy zone in some of these areas, especially in the area just before you get to the cross. In the Cross River Delta, there is a complete absence of beach. The nearest to it is the Tidal, and that shows a lot of distinct accretionary ridges that conform to possible different stages of this development and growth. So this implies that the entire process in this region are different, and its peculiarities are what contribute for the rate expression of the Niger Delta. On the gross scale, if you're working on the Niger Delta, you will understand. We will use knowledge of what we know to look at this data, but you will meet surprises when you go to that far east. I will discuss that further. So the Cross River Delta region begins entirely different from the remaining part of the Niger Delta. There is in fact 2 distinct deltas sitting next to each other. Based on this study, the morphology study, so sitting together, region. So looking at the accretionary ridges in that vital side of the delta, we have in every other delta, the ridges, accretionary ridges are parallel across. This is the only pitch that shows distinction in terms of orientation of the accretion. In a way, it's supporting that there could be difference between the two parts. What is might be different from what is. So we have also looked at classification one more. Our delta some are inlet migration and stable inlet processes, just like one and 2. So these are morphological features. We've looked at the morphology of our data, placed it side by side, and we can now make an inference to say this is the best way to classify our data, our Niger data. Move on, please. Another one, this is by Joseph, modified alpha. You can see the way the tidal channels are clean in that part. Then in this other part, which corresponds to our central part, is building accretionally and all that. So the first part, upper part of that, where is not highlighted. So you have symmetric a little bit of asymmetry and even deflated as the river sediment increases and the longshore current transport also increases from lowest to highest. So this helps us make inference back to the dominant processes that is happening in this region. Next. So evidence for this, we've talked about this a little bit before and still this week. Next one, please. Just to save time, we have touched on the splits while I discuss this. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, why they are facing the technical thing. So the story here is looking at the morphology, the landforms, their distribution in the Niger. Instead of just doing a homogeneous classification, Niger I'm looking at it in this cluster. In this case, as a big center where all the influences are treated like acres. Rather, let's look at it separately. In addition to that, I also want to emphasize the uniqueness of the Far East Delta, which is completely different from the other parts of the Delta. Of course, the obvious reason would be to look at sediment supply system. That will be the Niger, right? That's bifurcates into Chicago and Costa Rica. So that is a clear-cut sediment supply system. But in the Far East, you have the river across supplying sediment. So the dynamics between these two is completely different. Beyond just looking at them as people, also looking at them in substance, the dynamics are also different. So that is the concept of this discussion. Next, please. Next. Okay. So, broad morphology of the delta. I think while I've talked about this, you can go to the next one. So, just to avoid over-generalization, looking at delta, our delta system, the Niger delta online, has subdivided into zones. We bring it to guide our errors that we come from the generalization. So the ternary system of the delta is based on proportion of the influence of river tide wave process is expressed on the delta morphology like this. So using that tripartite model, the Niger delta was classified as one, basically. So this has a limitation because you treat the entire delta as one, and assumptions are made based on that clause. But however, on the contrary, the FTW, which is river tidal wave processes, could vary significantly across and within a delta, creating landform and morphologies that could result in each of these zones fitting into this way. So to avoid forcing or splitting the entire delta into a distinct endings. In this case, as previous studies have done, it has been split into 4 zones, each by different dominants of both the fluvial influence, both the tidal influence and the wave related processes across the coast. Next, please. Yeah, so this is just an image of different deltas in the world. I don't know why I'm having to. It's a different image. Niger delta is there and every other delta from Mexico, Elbro from Spain, Ganges and all of that. So it's just to look at the ternary-based classification of delta as a function of fluvial discharge, wave, tidal processes, the morphology and stratigraphic evolution of delta depositional system and all of that. It's just another story of the models for classifying Niger Delta. So I'll be concluding. So just give me your last energy. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is bringing back the ternary model where the morphology were looked at and made classification. So if I look at the west, this is where the wet plus, if you see where you have copper and delta, and the east plus about the same thing, the same place with almost the same influence of wave and tidal processes. If you go up, you see central plus towards the fluvial side, dominant fluvial, a little bit of wave process on that side. And if you go to the far east plus as a tidal, predominantly tidally influenced process, which is on that side. This is how, if you divide Niger Delta, how they will, into those zones, how they will plot. And in any way, there is nothing near the central. So, but if you put it as central, which is the old model, that is where it will plot. So with this plot, you can see that there's too much when it comes to generalizing based on the mixed model classification. So that hence, this study is actually suggesting that we treat Niger Delta at different deltas, though in one. The next one, please. So what are the implications of this study? My boss in the office, we're looking at a project that is very close to the Cross River side, and is seeing a lot of interesting features, even right in the middle of what you think as an issue. You can see traces of fluvial influence on that one, and in this case, geopoints, basically. So I'm talking of Mr. Cletus here. Very interesting geology around this area. And while looking at this, it took me back to, even though the observations are quite unique, it's actually not a surprise, knowing that that data can actually be behaving differently from normal people. Last Napier as well, I have a friend that did a presentation. He saw a very wide channel in his model, and he wasn't convinced that it could be treated as a channel until he made comparison and saw that channels that big can actually exist. In that case, he made prediction of the thickness and all of that. Why am I saying this? Is a way to say that this study, though on the surface, though sensible in the subsurface, especially in areas where the norm is beginning to shift. Okay, so that is understanding that. So there are a lot of sand body architecture is important, tunnel fabric and all of that, supported by those guys. So there's evidence, even in Niger Delta literature, especially an example from Olomoro and Afesere field that shows beach deposit, very extensive, correlatable, kilometers wide. So these are understanding we have on the surface and how they can help us in the subsurface. Next slide, please. So implication for subsurface mapping still, tidal point bars are also preserved in the Niger Delta by study Whiteman 1982. And I mean, I can go on and just be pointing how this can be applied, but for those who do interpretation of Niger Delta data in the subsurface, one way or the other, you get to make this kind of predominantly tidal geobodies, and they encourage entrapment as opposed to some other geobodies. So hence, just to point to the relevance of this study. Next slide, please. So what are the conclusions? Niger Delta is actually 70,000 square kilometers by measurement, axial distance of 22 kilometers. I've discussed the comparison, so I'll just move on. Which of the Niger Delta fluvial systems, the channels, reduces as you move to the coast in somewhat linear variation or linear gradient, as opposed to the tidal that increases towards the coast in somewhat exponential exponential variation, right? So sinuosity of main tidal channels are not an issue as compared to the creeks. So there is no obvious relationship with the tidal channel index, the length as to sinuosity index. So lagoons form in areas where the channel can push deep into the mainland and all that. I'll just move to the next one. So the coastline of the Niger Delta is rimmed with beach sands. At the far east, in the Cross River region, my slide is blocked, so yeah, let me just talk through it. So at the far east, it's important to know that there is uniqueness in the dominance of tide in this environment. As a result, we should bear in mind that this system, though treated as homogeneous deltaic system, can have attributes that are distinct from each other with respect to each of those lobes. So in a way, the reclassification will give a better understanding of what to anticipate during conceptual fascia modeling of subsurface deposits in the Niger Delta, and generally to avoid overgeneralization in applying our knowledge of the surface into the subsurface. So thank you very much. I think that's where I will stop. The next slide, the acknowledgement slide, can you just leave it?
Please, a round of applause once again to Dr. Chinotu for a detailed and well-structured presentation. Thank you. You actually did a great job taking us from the surface and going about how we can apply it in the subsurface. Using satellite imagery within a GIS framework to study the surface and the delta, lower delta plane, and how it can extend beyond that. Mapping delta features like tidal channels, beaches, speeds, levees, and all of that to drive a relationship between the channels and how the delta evolved, really using the sinuosity, density, connectivity, and stuff like that. So we have also seen spatial variation across the delta, which made you classify the delta into 4 subcategories, which is, I think, a very, very important takeaway for this presentation, because Dr. Chinotu is proposing that you don't assume that the delta behaves the same everywhere, which is actually quite sensible. So you expect the variations because geology and nature is not mostly uniform. So, but we have 4 subdivisions of this delta, the lower delta plane and the delta front. One key thing that struck me was that you mentioned the beaches are well developed in the flanks, but missing in the well developed in the flanks. So this will have real implications when you are looking at a fluvial system where you have a fluvial deltaic system where you have these beaches well developed at the flank. So if you hit a reservoir within that, so you would not expect to have a lot of thickness. So it will have real implications for the uncertainty and the risk assessment of that reservoir, which is quite important. Also, you concluded by highlighting some of the implications, of course, to do with reservoir architecture, heterogeneity, connectivity, and uncertainty, which is very, very important, as I've mentioned, for subsurface study, for field development planning, for the evaluation. So it's a very, very good conceptual model, so to say, of rethinking the Niger Delta itself, the delta front, and how it evolved over time and how it can go on to be applied in the subsurface today. So thank you for that detailed and technically rich presentation. We would go on to questions and answers briefly. I hope you have prepared your questions and answers. Questions, really. He will do the answering. And please, where we have some veterans, some experts here, if you feel you can step in, contribute, comment, you are welcome to. So hope we have our questions and answers. So I'll compare. Can we take maybe indications for questions? Okay, we have 1, 2, okay, 3, 4. Okay, I know we have a bit of time, right, Madam Chairman? So we can take. But because I'm the chairman of the technical session, I will ask my question first. Or make my comment first regarding the study before I yield it to the floor. So I was just thinking around the study on how did you have maybe had any access to maybe some seismic data you could have compared for seismic stratigraphic analysis. I think such a study could benefit with that from a seismic stratigraphic analysis where you can see the how this delta developed and maybe incorporation of paleogeographic studies, of course using the seismic data as well, because I remember during my PhD, I did something similar, but it was on the side. It was for the North Sea. I had to do a paleogeographic reconstruction incorporating seismic stratigraphic analysis just to establish where the positions of things is a good tool to allow you to position. So this will give you a direct link for your surface, near surface studies to the subsurface, and really, really a good tool that you can compare. Maybe even some palynology, if you have some access to fossil data, you can analyze, but that will be a stretch. But that's just a comment of maybe, but I know some of these studies, sometimes they can balloon, they can, it's not a PhD you are doing or something, it's not, you're doing it for operations, for production. So that's just mine. Do you want to take one at a time, or you want to take a few, then you answer all at once? Okay. Okay. So maybe you can take mine, and then we go to the first person, then the second person. We'll come back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, this study had a third part where I had to use study the subsurface, try to extract geobodies in the subsurface, take dimensions of those ones, and see how they compare to what I'm doing on the surface. So something like that was done. But as a matter of scope, I just decided to limit to the story of Niger Delta reclassification in this discussion. So there is something where comparison was made. But one of the things I should say is the beauty of the study, especially in the UK, is that they help to scope this. They know when you're doing too much for the time that you have and all that. So it's between that and that. So that's just
Actually, including all of that will be too much, including seismic stratigraphic analysis, paleogeography, and all of that will be too much. So it's a good one. But if you think about extending it further, just for fun, you can include that. So let's have a question. Do we have a microphone over there, please? Do we have an extra? Ayo, do you have an extra microphone for the? Please, let's give the man in white a microphone.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the lecture. So my question is, I want to ask, how does the hypopycnal flows and hyperpycnal flows, how do they affect, river discharge from hypopycnal and hyperpycnal flow affect the depositional morphology and also the facial architecture in this environment settings, both wave and tidal settings? And if we know how they affect, how can we recognize these differences on stratigraphic record? Like, oh, this is due to an hypopycnal flow, this is also due to an hyperpycnal flow. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Just to put it in simple terms, flow, let's start it on flow. And related, associated with that is deposition. Okay, so you have sediment is a function of volume. That is why I started off by saying the delta system is a very complex system. So you're coming with sediment, the volume is key, the strength of your river is key, where the flow types come into play, then you deposit. As you're depositing, let's assume it's fully deposited. There are other influences that are acting on it, redistributing them. It could be tidal, it could be wave that's redistributing them. So it's a function of all of this. Who is more powerful? PDP or APC, you get what I mean? So who is more powerful in that context is what makes it settle or not. That is on the surface as we have it here. But in the subsurface, if you see a geo body, you can recognize it by the kind of influence. But to go micro to know if it's hyperpycnal or not, I don't think it's something I've tried. You can see a fluvial deposit and say this is fluvial. You can see tidal, inaneretic, bay, all those kind of, you can see their features. But to be specific to say this is the type of flow that resulted in this type of microstructure, it's not something I've looked at. So that's just my, thank you.
So please, just before you ask the question, briefly introduce just your name, affiliation. So we have a second hand here. I know there is a third one here. A fourth one was somewhere here. Yes. So maybe we'll come to you, number 5.
Okay, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. I go by the name of Abubakar Habib, recently graduated from Maiduguri. So my question is about tide-dominated and not tide-dominated deltas. So what geomorphic feature are we used to like this? And my second question is, how can you make use of your study to hasten oil and gas exploration in just a nutshell? Thank you very much.
Okay, the first part, the entire study, so to say, is focused on identifying those landforms, those geomorphic units. Now, the way, what you identify in terms of the name and the unit identified, is it beach? Is it a tidal flat? Is it the channel itself? In this case, tidal channel, and all of that is actually what I did. And based on what you have identified, you can tell which of these processes influenced it the most. A beach typically occurs where wave is dominant. Yeah, if you see a channel and it's funneling in with barriers and all of that, you know that tide is dominant in that environment. If you see a channel and it's narrow, in the case of my study, it's also narrowing towards the coast. In a linear gradient, you know that this is fluvial. So these are just the various landforms and what you can make out of them in terms of inference to the dominant process. Some can fit into isolated, like beach, purely wave, you get what I mean? Some like that, but others a combination of all these factors. So that is just what I mean. Niger Delta, as we know, all through is a mixed delta from Galloway, from all the other previous. And that is what is new in my own study. I'm saying that let's not lump it up. Let's divide it into sub-units. From the sub-units, you're seeing that on the west, is tide dominant, then wave influenced. At the central, fluvial dominant, wave influenced, and like that. But at the far east, it's tide dominant, and it's just looking at all these features, all these landforms, their geomorphic, history and all that. So that is it. So right now, I can't call any one classification for Niger Delta anymore. I would rather go by those loops and say, have this at the back of your mind, that at some point is tide dominated, at some point is wave dominated. Thank you.
I think you also had a comment about the implications for exploration and production, right? So maybe I can help with this. Basically, exploration and production is what it is. It helps you locate your reservoirs. So when you know where the architectural elements are in space, it helps you to map them easily, and you can predict some of the features like the thickness, reservoir thickness, the width, the length. I think
Okay, that's fine. I think you've touched it basically. It's just to, if I see most of the tidal channels now are like 2-3 kilometers, the widest they can be. And if I'm studying on the subsurface and I'm seeing a channel that is 15 kilometers, I should be guided. Yeah, what I mean. So that is how you put all these things. Yeah. Maybe before now something different would have happened in the Niger Delta system. That's also another thing to explore. But on the average, we want to be guided with what we know. Basically, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this enriching lecture. So I shouldn't have asked this question because I have done some work related to stuff like this. So I'm fascinated to ask this question. So in your model, I just want to know if you incorporate or make any assumptions about the dominant controls that you use in your reclassifications. So like what could be responsible for the tidal amplifications in the Far East? Because in our study, we just basically split proximal area of the delta and the distal area of the delta. That's my first question. Any assumptions about the dominant controls? Okay, then, okay, maybe that. Okay. Yes, I just have the second question. Okay, so the second one is, did you also make any comparison between the sand body connectivity in the Far East, where tide is dominant, and in the West, where it is not? And what's your best analog for the Niger Delta? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The second. Okay. Okay, don't worry. I already have too much, so let me deal with this. I'll come to you. Okay, yeah. At the beginning, I said it's a complex system. If you're talking of tide, you even go back to the influence of the moon, the sun, the circles of all of that, and all that. So it's a complex system. So what we did, in order not to take on so much at the same time, first of all, when I presented I want to do this for the whole Niger Delta, there was an issue on scope already, So we didn't go too deep into the essential elements, what will make a tide be high here or all of that. The study is narrowed to whatever it is that is a process, this is what it has created. And that thing that is created is what we are using to make our classification. So that's the approach basically. So in terms of testing, yes, if we from Boyd, from Galloway, from Isons, all of these are models of data classification. So each of these areas we benchmark with all these models and made that conclusion. I found that of Einstein more favorable because it fitted into my work scope, and that is what we use. Testing it on the subsurface is difficult to apply in zones in that regard. I mean, comparing what you have with the subsurface. there is data issue, limitation, and all of that. But all the same, is a template that has been created, and going forward, either you or myself can always benchmark with what's going on the subsurface. So that's just my response. Thank you. I'm studying on the surface. Why would I bother with analog? But anyway, you have all the. That was one of the pictures that I showed of different data: Ebro, Mekong, Brahmaputra, all of those deltas of the world. So far, there is no one single delta that has shown to have behaved the same. In terms of saying, okay, once you go to Mississippi Delta, you have seen Niger Delta. There is nothing like that, basically. But the comparison, if divided into zones, you can have data that is tide dominant, you can have data that is wave dominant, and all of that. So that is the kind of way I looked at. But to say the way we do in the subsurface, I've seen this type, is the analog is in Mexico or in Grand Canyon and all of that. I didn't approach it from that point of view. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc, for the presentation and the study. My name is Tamunemi Johnson from the Niger Delta area, and I've done a couple of studies and jobs in the region. So your study is interesting, and then there are a few concerns which I would like to present to you, maybe for further studies or investigation, or to add value to the context. Basically, we observed in the discharge to the ocean, yes, these dynamics are taking place, all the fluvial and all the dynamics that are at interplay. But in the mid-section of the channels, we realize that the depositions, the mud fleets, recent occurrences, mud fleets are building in most of the channels, mud fleets. Largely, we don't know the rate. So is it possible for your further studies to take cognizance of the depositional rate of the mud fleets? I take Sombrero River, for example. Recently, a research was to be done to define if vessels of 9 meters draft could pass through the channel. And then it was realized that pipelines, LNG pipelines are crisscrossing. And so further studies shows that the depositions, the mud fleets were so much. They characterize the Niger Delta and the interior. So could your study add value to defining the rate at which the mud fleet settles, which will characterize the Niger Delta? Of course, I also acknowledge the far eastern depositional rate, because what you have said, I acknowledge is true, because the continental shelf there is great, and it has the largest continental shelf in Nigeria. And then that boils down to the issue of Akwa Ibom and Cross River seeking for a continental shelf to be part of activities there, to be part of the state assets. So my question is, do you have any value, the dynamics, to determine the dynamics of the depositions, both interior and then the discharge into the ocean?
Okay, your comment is quite interesting. Yeah, or silt formation is a terminology used that brings challenge to maybe navigation, settlement is an issue. Is an issue, and that on the geology side could be a benefit, because sediment deposition or sedimentation processes are high. It's one thing to look at it from civil society point of view or engineering point of view, and to also look at it from geology. So like I pointed out, I didn't go too deep into sedimentology in terms of rate of deposition, what support or don't support it, and the impact it has on the environment. I didn't go into that. In terms of interest, is it an interesting thing to look at? Yes, it will be a good thing for navigation. I know that in Port Harcourt, part of the challenge navigation so far is running aground onto sandbars and all of that. That probably wasn't there just 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So yeah, interest, yes, is something that somebody can look at. It's something that if I want to look at too, is of interest. But that is a different branch. It has to go into sedimentology, civil engineering kind of studies and all of that to be able to know the root cause. So I started off by saying that IT systems are complex systems, and I still maintain that they are complex. There's a lot to look at, and the impact they have on navigation, the impact they have on the position from geology point of view and all of that. But I want to separate this work. I'm looking at product of processes and not the process itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chinotu. We have held you here long enough, answered many questions. So our online people, we have not forgotten about you. We have a question from an online participant. My sister, maybe we'll take your question maybe during the networking session, please. So because we have a lot, we are running out of time, I've been informed, but someone has dropped a. So the question from the online participant is, in the context of flare gas gathering and its conversion to energy, what does your research suggest regarding the development of low draft vessels capable of collecting gas from tidal zones, specifically the inner region of creeks and streets, given the large number of wells and the high volume of flaring in these hard-to-access areas? So what does your research suggest regarding the development of low draft? I think it fits into kind of what is the last question.
So it's actually an extension of what, basically, let's separate this. Let's look at processes, what's going on, and then we'll look at what they result into the product, basically. For geologic study, you're looking at, in this context, the products, basically. So if you go to the processes, then it can dovetail into their impact on draft, on navigation, on the challenges. Like I mentioned, we had an activity to do a hydrographic study close to the Far East, where you have river cross, and it was a challenging environment in every way you look at it. So very challenging. So yeah, it's a study that we can do, but right now what I have focused on is in the products of these landforms and the impact they have in reclassifying the deltaic system, or at least understanding the dominant processes in this environment. So that is just what, we can have another session for geopolitics.
Not geopolitics, maybe. Look at the processes and products and debate it. We are technical people, so leave the politics to politicians. So thank you, Dr. Chinotu. My sister, please, we'll take your question during, because there will be a networking session after this, so we can just hang around and chat after we have some of the group photos. So, but thank you very much for that wonderful and detailed presentations, and at least it's clear to some of our listeners, both physically present here and online, the importance of characterizing the delta accurately and what implication it will have, especially for the ongoing exploration and production of hydrocarbons in the Niger Delta. So it's really a great and important work you're doing, and we appreciate and thank you. I'll leave the vote of thanks to Madam, but specifically, I find your study fascinating and interesting, so I must thank you. So thank you, everyone. We just crave your patience a bit more as we try to round up this session. I would also like to acknowledge our fellows, NAPE fellows. Dr. Aminu Maitama is here with us. Dr. Wilson Osong is a fellow of NAPE, and Madam Ajayi, our immediate past Abuja chapter coordinator. Yes. So thank you. Thank you very well. Please, a round of applause for the question.
Let's keep the applause rolling, please. Was the coming here today worthwhile? Yes, right? We would like to appreciate you all for coming. This is not a vote of thanks yet. It's very, very important for us to appreciate the presence of some persons in our midst. We would like to appreciate the presence of Biometrics Energy. Please, let's give them a round of applause. We would like to also recognize the presence of NUPRC. A round of applause for them as well. The presence of NNPC NSEF. A round of applause for them, please. Recognize the presence of NOSRA, Oil Spill Detection. A round of applause for them as well. We would like to recognize the presence of Juvical Energy. Can we give them a round of applause also? Also, we have the presence of the students of the University of Abuja who came in their numbers. Let's give them a round of applause. Petroleum Training Institute, PTI, a round of applause for them, please. Students of Bayero University, let's give them another round of applause. We have members of Green Energy International represented here also. A round of applause for them. I believe we're not missing anybody out. I believe so. Yeah. Oh, our sponsors, our host here. Please, let's give another big round of applause to the PTDF for honorably hosting us. Thank you, PTDF. We appreciate you for all you do, and you never get tired of us. Secondly, we would like to recognize our new members. Some persons have newly joined the association, and it's very important for us to recognize them for this decision that they took. Gumsoro Mohammed, let's give him a round of applause. Oluwaseun Olowokere, another round of applause. Awalu Sunny, a round of applause too. Lawrence Oshim, please a round of applause. Joshua Musa Russell Kerewi, Abba Yao Usman, Toroni Omolewa Abosede, let's give them all a round of applause. You all are welcome to this distinguished association, and we are pretty sure you will have an enjoyable membership. Thank you very much. Next on the list is the presentation of award to our speakers, our chairman, and the sponsor. And this will be done by members of the I-Table. In no particular order, please join me as we make welcome Dr. Wilson Osum F. Napi for the presentation of his award. Let's keep the applause rolling, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think the sponsor of this technical meeting is ably represented by Dr. Mala, I guess. So please could you step forward? On behalf of NAPI Abuja chapter, I present this award of appreciation to Mr. Emmanuel Benibo Magjaja, the Director of Subsurface Development, NUPRC, in recognition of your contribution as the sponsor of the NAPI Abuja Technical Meeting for the month of February. I want to also add my voice to the fact that Emmanuel has always been supportive of NAPI activities, not only in Abuja, but also in the national level. And he has sent his colleague here, Dr. Mala, to come and represent him. Dr. Mala, please take this to him on behalf of NAPI Warri chapter, Abuja chapter.
All right, thank you very much. Another round of applause, please. Following, please join me as we make welcome the lectern here, Dr. Aminu Metama F. Napi, for the presentation of his award. Please, a round of applause, please. Let's keep the applause rolling, please. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of NAPE Abuja chapter, and those who just joined us recently are all welcome. On behalf of NAPE, I want to make this presentation to Dr. George Chinotu. We have had the presentation. It's well engaging, so many questions. I have like 5 questions, but the chairman said I will not ask any, but I will still ask you. On behalf of the NAPE Abuja chapter, I want to present this appreciation award to our presenter, Dr. George Chinotu, a senior geoscientist with Lekoil, in recognition of his contributions as a presenter at the NAPE Abuja technical meeting, holding today, Thursday, 12 February 2026, courtesy of Abuja NAPE chapter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sirs. We appreciate you. Lastly, but not the least, please join me as we make welcome of the lectern, the immediate past chapter coordinator, Dr. Mrs. Eunice Ajayi, as she makes the presentation of the award. Please, a round of applause for her.
Thank you very much. I want to do the presentation to Dr. Mohamed Mala, for the chairman of this meeting this afternoon. Dr. Mala, you've been very supportive to this chapter. I want to thank you for always being there. So we'll make the presentation to you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma. We appreciate you. Yes, we are running out of time. However, there are some things we need to do. So once again, I would like to welcome up the lectern, the secretary of this chapter, in person of Dr. Lawal, for the announcement of NAPE activities. Dr. Lawal, you're welcome here, sir. A round of applause.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank everybody for making it this far. So, as you know, NAPE has an array of programs coming up. So, most important in our line of...
Welcome to the Petroleum Technology Development Fund, Nigeria's premier agency for the development of capacity in the oil and gas.
All right, so we have our technical business in this quarter of the year. So the most important one close by is the Lagos February 18th meeting. The next, we have another one that will be coming up later in the month of February. That will be happening in Port Harcourt. The topic will be demystifying novel technologies in seismic acquisitions. So please well to watch out and attend the event. We also have more technical business meeting. Another one will be the Worry chapter, managing subsurface uncertainty, what really drives exploration and development success. So this will be happening on the 27th of February 2026. Please do attend that too. And we have a big one too, hydrocarbon prospectivity in the Anambra Basin. That will be co-hosted by the Oka Oweri chapter NAPE. So this will happen March 19, 2026. We implore you to. And we have technical business workshop to be held by the Abuja chapter. So February 20th and the 21st is a 2-day workshop. So we encourage you to try to attend this event too. So we'll be looking at hands-on workshop on well log and seismic interpretation for petroleum exploration. So please keep it, make it a date. We have more to come. We have the NAPE UAP lecture series, one of which will be geomorphology of a Pleistocene submarine channel levee complex, Niger Delta offshore case study. It will be happening later in the month, in fact, at the end of the month, actually, on the 28th February 2026. So we also want to implore you to watch out for the NAPE biggest event, the 2026 NICE will be holding between 8th to 13th November 2026. We encourage everyone here to try and register early and make preparations. Please also, there will be openings for abstract submission. Please watch out for announcements. And that's it. Mainly, next one, we want to encourage everybody to try and register. If you are not yet a member, please do that. And those who are already active, associates, and professional members, we encourage you to please renew your membership if you have not done so. And there is a special appeal fundraising drive for the purchase of a permanent NAPE secretariat. So there is this special fundraising appeal. The fellow members are encouraged to come up with at least 250,000 naira, followed by a minimum of 450,000 naira by the active members, and lecturers also have a share up to 75,000 naira. The account has been provided. Please, you can contact me if you need further information. With that, there is a special appeal for NAPE Secretariat permanent site. And NAPE dues, once again, we encourage you. There is an online and account number has been provided. Please do well to pay your dues. You have been very supportive. Thank you very much. That's all I have on our agenda today. And thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. A round of applause, please. All right. And we would like the chapter coordinator, Abuja, to come give the vote of thanks. Please, with a round of applause, can we make welcome up the lectern, Dr. Miriam, the chapter coordinator. Please, a round of applause.
Hello again, everyone. Thank you all for staying put. I'd like to call in the outgoing Abuja chapter coordinator. Please do all the honor of the vote of thanks, please.
Can you guys hear me? Can you
Thank you
hear
very
me?
much, Dr. Mariam.
Can you hear me?
I'm super excited today to be here. This first technical meeting of NAPE Abuja chapter. I really want to appreciate the present ESCO Abuja chapter. They really did a good job. They're very active set, and I'm so happy. I'm so proud of them that are actually taking Abuja chapter to the next level. Like I'm sure the opening speech she gave today, it has showed, and she actually mentioned that we have super sensitized programs, very important and insightful ones, which is going to be back to back. That means every month we'll be having technical meetings, and I hope you create time for that, because they're going to be very insightful ones. Don't miss it. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mia, for living up to the task. So I want to tell you that last year we won the best chapter. So I'm sure this year also we're going to win it. Going with the Keep coming, and you'll be glad you did. Thank you also for coming. We appreciate you. I think we are going to have okay. Thanks so much.
All right, the president-elect, Dr. Tony, also wants to speak with us. He had a speech earlier on, but we couldn't hear. So I think we have it rectified now. So he wants to say a word.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, they can hear you.
Sir. Okay, so if you can hear me, I think the president is in this meeting. I think she should talk. So just call on the president to first of all talk before I can say anything, please. Sorry, I think I saw the president. She's in this call.
She joined. She's on.
Yeah, so she should say something to the meeting. So please just call her up. Madam President.
Good afternoon.
Good.
Thank you, my P. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, P.
Good afternoon, Abuja chapter. I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing. You know, when the number of companies present were called, I was so glad that we have such number of people, which shows that Abuja chapter is very, very popular in Abuja, and they are doing excellently well for companies of those caliber to attend. Thank you very much. And to the speaker, I listened attentively to the presentation. It was a detailed one, and I must confess, I picked so many things from your presentation, which was well presented. Thank you. And I wasn't surprised, you know, we have that number of questions. You know, it shows that it was excellently presented. Thank you. And to our sponsor, Mr. Emmanuel Magjaja, like somebody said, that it's not only at Abuja chapter you do all those things you do, you also do it at the national level. I've even experienced that with this fundraising. He was one of those who paid and gave us substantial contribution. Thank you very much for what you do for our association. And I believe that with this type of start from Abuja chapter, we expect to see more of excellent technical meetings in the coming months. Thank you very much. And one of these days, if I'm in Abuja, I will definitely attend your technical meeting physically. God bless you all.
Yeah, thank you, Madam P. I will just wrap up by, just correcting a few things. The Lagos meeting will not be on 18th. It will be on the 25th at Eco Hotel, the Grand Ballroom. That's where we'll have it. Also, I don't know the Owerri chapter that will be in March. I thought it would have been 19th, but whatever. I mean, it's still far away. We'll know the right date and time for that meeting. Having said that, I want to personally congratulate the Abuja chapter. They are setting the pace for every other chapter. This is good. This is excellent. And I think you are even spicing up with the workshop that you have between 20th and 21st. So winning the best chapter last year, it shows it wasn't INEC done. So it shows it was hard work and all that. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the chapter coordinator, Dr. Mrs. Miriam. I want to thank the chairman, Dr. Male. I want to thank the presenter, Dr. Chinotu. He's somebody that's well known to me, a very good friend. I also want to thank those that presented plaques to the guys that are supposed to get the plaques. I thank you very much. I thank you for this. This is good. This is awesome. And I urge the Abuja chapter to keep the flag flying. They started well, and I'm sure they will end well. On that note, I want to say thank you, and then I will yield to the coordinator to continue. Thank you very much.
Ayo, over to you.
Please, yeah. Okay. Should we do it outside? I think it's a small. Yeah. And the time. And the time, yeah. Dr. Chinotu,